Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You are listening to Al Mubarak Radio with our official partners, Interpal. And subhanallah, on the blessed day of Jummah al Mubarak, we present to you Real Talk with Dr. Abdul Basit Sheikh and Brother Saf Lahe. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Brother Saf.
Wa alaikum salam, Dr. Sab.
How are you today?
Alhamdulillah, dua is yours and Almighty, inshallah, mashallah. Good. Yourself?
Alhamdulillah, very, very busy as usual.
Mashallah.
Work and other commitments. Had a very, very busy and productive day doing other projects as well. So, alhamdulillah, I'm glad to be in the studio, and many thanks to yourself and Mr. Mubarak and Al Mubarak Foundation for giving me the opportunity to come tonight and present our first show in many months called Real Talk.
Subhanallah. Subhanallah. Yes, I used to listen to your shows when obviously before we went off air on a Thursday night, one Thursday before. Or Friday night?
Friday nights.
Friday nights, yeah. Friday nights has always been your night, hasn't it?
Definitely.
Mashallah, Mubarak night.
Yes,
so
of course.
Yeah, Friday nights always been your night. And it was very interesting subjects what you talked where you talked about different activities, what's been going on, what's happened, and it's an open radio, so used to get many call-ins as well, mashallah, which was is quite good. So it'd be interesting to be actually on the show with you today for the first time.
Definitely. I mean, it's good to have a number of people sharing their insights on various topics. I mean, over the last nearly 2 years since I've been part of the Al Mubarak Foundation, Al Mubarak Radio, we've discussed many issues that have not been discussed by the community and the society. So I think it's very important. I don't know whether you agree with me, Brother Saf, that it's very important that we discuss issues that basically affect the Muslim community, not just in the UK, but right around the world.
That's right. Sometimes what I find is what a lot of people do, they hide the feelings and they're scared of speaking up. And I think they shouldn't be scared of speaking up. If you've got something on your chest, which is something within the limits or reasonable, approach somebody, talk to them and share your thoughts, share your feelings. So somebody might think, yeah, he's got a valid point. They might take that on board. So I think it's very important where people share this off and impress, talk what they really are feeling.
I mean, I think so. Like I discussed last week briefly during the opening of Al Mubarak Radio from our beautiful new premises.
Mashallah.
And basically, I briefly alluded to it last week that ultimately we need to take advantage, or we need to harness the power of media and social media. Alhamdulillah, we've got YouTube, which we never had before in Al Mubarak Radio, and I think YouTube is going to truly revolutionize Al Mubarak Radio to a new level that people are actually going to be viewing the programs, because until now people had heard of Mr. Mubarak, or people had heard of you, Brother Sava, people had heard of Qari Ilyas Al Badr or myself, but ultimately they couldn't put face to the name. But ultimately, I think YouTube is actually going to completely revolutionize the way Islam is propagated over the airwaves. It's not just going to be the voice now; it's actually going to be images as well. And ultimately, I think we need to. I mean, we could actually talk about this tonight in terms of the power of social media. That to what extent should we be using social media, YouTube, the internet in terms of propagating Islam, because I think it's very important that we access it, because I can remember there was a time where many Muslim scholars used to say, well, using computers or using mobiles is not acceptable because it leads to indiscretions or transgressions or even sin to a matter. But I think, would you agree that because technology is more widespread now, that ultimately those objections have been overcome now because of the widespread use of media and hardware such as iPads and Samsung Galaxy phones and iPhones, for example? So would you agree with that?
It's like what you discuss is the smartphones now are very simple to use. Even a 5 or 6 year old children could use a smartphone. So they made it that easy, where it's easy accessible, easy to use. I know a couple of people who are very old school, and all they want is a mobile phone where they could answer a call, put the phone down, and make a call. That's all they want. But since iPhones came in, they found it that easy. So they get used to it. So in regards to your question, I mean, internet and social media, I think now it plays a very important role in everybody's life. Islamically, schoolwork, like what we're doing here today, like on Twitter, Facebook. I mean, Facebook. Okay, Facebook is dependent on how each people uses it.
Correct.
Twitter. I mean, I've got Twitter account. Mr. Mubarak's got Twitter. Yourself got Twitter account. I mean, if you look on my Twitter account, or Mr. Mubarak's Twitter, or yourselves, all we do is put out daily quotes of Islamic quotes. Facebook, I've kind of moved away from say Facebook because I'm using more of Twitter. So social media is one of them things where it's very debatable. It all depends on the individual how they use it.
I mean, I totally agree with you, Brother Saf, that ultimately, when you have technology at your disposal, it's very important how you actually use that media, because we know the ills of Twitter and Facebook, that people can make fools of themselves, or people can use social media in a negative manner. But I think, Muslims today are increasingly going to be expected to use social media more. I know in the world of education that, where I teach at the University of Leeds, ultimately we are expected to consider, not automatically use new technologies in learning and teaching, but ultimately, if you speak to many people that are coming into university, many youth, they've grown up, they've gone through the school system using whiteboards, using smart boards. Today, I mean, these smart boards are quite amazing in terms of how they revolutionize learning. They learn through YouTube, learn through Facebook. They're well versed in this technology compared to when we went to school, Brother Saf, many years ago. That ultimately we only had use of basic computers such as a BBC computer or an Archimedes computer. So ultimately, the world has changed a lot, and I think Muslims need to engage and use social media and use these platforms in order to basically talk about, not just necessarily about Islam, but talk about the areas that they have an interest in or they specialize in order to actually get the word out. I mean, look at Mufti Menk, for example. Amazing that he's got over 500,000 followers on Twitter and Facebook, that how Mufti Menk uses the social media in a very simplistic way, no politics, he doesn't engage in theology, very simple reminders on a daily basis. And this simplicity of the messages that he provides via social media that actually allows him to be so effective, and he's actually providing a service for the Muslim community where they wouldn't necessarily be able to get that information, but ultimately he provides gentle reminders on a daily basis. And that's one example of a constructive use of social media as far as Muslims are actually concerned today.
It's like Sheikh Abdul from Bradford. He's a very big scholar, mashallah. He does fantastic bayans, and he's got his own Facebook page as well. But again, Sheikh Abdul, he only puts his own quotes regarding Islamic. He puts his own posters. I think he now has started designing his own, Islamic posters as well. So, there's nothing wrong in using the social media on Facebook as well. But it's the question is, how are you going to use it, and what level you're going to use it at?
I mean, I definitely agree with you, Brother Saf, that ultimately, when you're entrusted responsibility, you should be using any sort of apparatus, any sort of tool in for the right reasons, and use it positively rather than negatively. So ultimately, there is scope there for the widespread use of social media, because what we've got to remember, Brother Saf, is that if we look at our Muslim youth, for example, more of our, whether we like it or not, and it's quite debatable, in terms of what I'm going to say now, but ultimately what we've got to remember is that many of our Muslim youth do not rely on the traditional modes of learning, i.e. Sitting in a masjid or mosque after the salah and listening to a speech in a masjid. I mean, many youth are no longer attracted to that particular medium of delivering Islamic knowledge. Many of the youth are attracted to YouTube, for example, where they can just type in a particular sheikh's name on YouTube, search for it, and find a raft a collection of bayans, whether it be Mufti Menk, whether it be Sheikh Ahmad Ali, whether it be Norman Ali Khan, or whether it be Zakir Naik, for example. So ultimately, they have a treasure trove at their disposal, or they have a library that they can access of videos. So YouTube is actually, I think it probably revolutionized dawah, Islamic knowledge, i.e. the presentation of Islamic knowledge, more so than probably any other tool, even of Twitter and Facebook. I don't know whether you agree with me, brother Sam, but I think YouTube has changed, revolutionized
It has.
the way information is provided.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, you could type anything on YouTube. You could type basically literally anything on YouTube. And, you'll just come up. I mean, the other day I had a problem with my iPhone. I typed on YouTube and he gave me how to go buy it. And it worked. Again, with the scholars, used to, you could type in any scholar's name and you'd get a big list of any scholar's names, Quran recites, Nats, Nasheed. So I think YouTube has vastly moved very, very forward.
I mean, YouTube, ultimately, I think, there's no substitute to books. I mean, in my view, and I'll probably be biased in saying this, I've been an academic, but ultimately, there's no substitute to books. But ultimately, many people are actually moving away from books. I mean, you have ebooks now.
Yeah,
For example, you can buy ebooks via Amazon, Kindle, Kindle, you can buy ebooks. So I think even academia, for example, is going to be revolutionized, the way you're going to see less books in print, less space on bookshelves, and more of this content online through a digital format. So I think learning and teaching has been completely revolutionized. That ultimately this is a challenge that Muslims actually have now, in terms of the fact that they're going to be expected to deliver their content increasingly via digital platforms, as opposed to the traditional methods of learning. I mean, I don't think we should get rid of traditional methods of learning. There is space for them, but ultimately you need to have more arrows to actually fire in respect of your bow, compared to what Muslims have used in the past. I mean, 2 years ago, brother Saf, I always made a vow I'll never go on Facebook. I'll never join Facebook and never use Twitter. But ultimately, there are pitfalls, there are disadvantages, especially when you're a public figure. You've got to be very careful in terms of what you put on, which way it can be actually construed. It can be construed negatively or positively. So obviously, responsibility comes with it. But if you've got, then ultimately the only way people are going to be following you is through Facebook and Twitter. I mean, I agree with the brother stuff that I've also moved away from Facebook now, more onto Twitter, because I find Twitter is more effective. The only restriction with Twitter is you only have 140 characters, whereas Facebook. But ultimately, I think the new technologies in the day, in terms of content online. This is an online. I watched a couple of videos last week for the opening show last week, and it looks, fantastic.
That's right.
It looks very professional, high tech, and
the beauty about it as well, you don't have to watch it straight away. You can always look back and reflect on what the person said, or if you've missed something, you can always go back and read. I mean, even like our own shows, we could look back our own shows as well. How can we improve from next week? We all stutter sometimes, so we need to work on that as well. So I mean, it's got its advantages more than anything else, I think.
I mean, definitely. I mean, ultimately, YouTube is going to be the way forward, as far as I'm concerned.
Definitely.
With radio stations. I mean, I think Al Mubarak Radio will become Al Mubarak TV. It's already now become Al Mubarak TV now.
That's right.
Because we're already online. There's no difference between us now, on live on YouTube, compared to a particular Sky channel, whether it be Ummah channel, whether it be Madani channel, or Noor TV, or Peace TV. So I mean, ultimately, I think probably through this platform you get to more people worldwide than even TV channels on the Sky platform, on the Astra platform, worldwide. So I think YouTube is basically probably the most revolutionary tool in terms of getting content across to a wide range of people.
I think this is just like a stepping stone for us. Once you start, we are firmly on the stepping stone, and then we could be looking at moving another step up. rather than missing one step and going to the third step. If you do it step by step, obviously we're not occurring any errors in between as well, inshallah. I think you're right in terms of, YouTube is moving forward, and I think maybe I don't know, inshallah, with people who are, who knows what's on the corner.
I mean, ultimately, it's more less about presentation, and it's in terms of appearance. I think it's the content that's the most important thing that listeners are actually looking for. Ultimately, in terms of the message, getting out there. Because I mean, ultimately, when you look at many Islamic programs that have been delivered, whether in the masajid or whether it be on YouTube or even Facebook, that ultimately we need to get a wide variety of learned Muslims, Muslim professionals onto platforms like this, because many Muslims in our community only assume that it's only the ulama or the scholars that have knowledge and everybody else doesn't have that much knowledge. I mean, if you look at the Muslim community overall, we have many qualified people, such as accountants, teachers, nurses, doctors, dentists, academics. And it's very important that we get a wide variety of people onto platforms such as Al Mubarak Radio, onto Twitter, onto Facebook, to basically act as role models. Because it's something that I've always talked about, that we've got many highly educated, successful people within our communities, but ultimately they're not visible.
No.
And they need to appear on these type of platforms. For example, Mubarak Radio actively encourages people to take part on a voluntary basis, give 1 hour or 2 hours of their time a week, whatever they can do. But ultimately, we need a wide variety of people coming into the studio, delivering talks that benefits and enriches our Muslim community, because only a handful of people can only do so much.
That's right.
Ultimately, we need a variety of people.
I mean, if you look on Mount Pleasant itself, obviously we often say better than what we are. If you look on Mount Pleasant itself, I mean, we've got doctors, dentists, we've got taxi drivers, bus drivers, coach drivers, we've got postmen, we've got local post office, we've got alims, alimas. So alhamdulillah, we are blessed in a way that everything is on our doorstep. So I think people should come forward now, because this is a moving, it's a next step to your life. It's a moving forward thing, rather than, as you say, the old books on the shelf type of thing. So more people come forward now and express what they want to talk about on a voluntary basis. I think it's very important now, because obviously we're on the radio, and obviously YouTube is playing a big part in this. So I think a lot of people should come forward, and I mean, we're quite privileged, to be honest with you, about the amount of people we've got around that area.
Al Mubarak Radio, and now through YouTube, I mean, it's truly revolutionary. I think we broke new boundaries.
That's right.
And we've actually crossed territory that we never actually expected to do so. But ultimately, the only way this platform can become more stronger and become more influential is getting more people on board from a variety of backgrounds. I mean, I know that many professionals, and not necessarily professionals, are very busy with their family life, their work life, and it's difficult to find time. But ultimately, we need to encourage more people, and we are directly making an appeal to whoever may be listening tonight, that ultimately come down to the studio if you're local, and ultimately contribute and take part, because I'm sure everybody's got something to offer in terms of knowledge, expertise, got tips that they can actually give. And it's a way of we need to basically support one another, and we need to assist one another in terms of making our community a more cohesive outfit. And this is something that's I've always talked about from many on many occasions on Al Mubarak Radio, that ultimately we need to get the cream of the crop within our community to come together and work together in a more effective manner to benefit the current generation and the subsequent generations that will actually follow us. Because I mean, ultimately, we never know. I mean, we might have the next budding nasheed artist, we might have the next most world famous Qari, or the next budding doctor. But ultimately we're not going to know until they actually, make an appearance.
I mean, look at Maulana Imtiaz. I mean, I might be wrong, but I'm sure Mr. Mubarak will correct me if I'm wrong. Maulana Imtiaz, where did he start from?
Al Mubarak Radio.
There you are.
And now look where he is.
Look where he is now. He's in America at the moment.
He's actually, become so famous.
That's right.
That people, once you mention one name, everybody knows what it is. So ultimately, he started out on Al Mubarak Radio. That's the biggest success story for Al Mubarak Radio today. The Maulana Imtiaz Sida, he came from nowhere, given a chance by Mr. Al Mubarak. And ultimately, look, where he is now. That he's known all over the world. So ultimately, that just, that's just a brilliant example that you're giving, Brother Safi, in terms of the fact that he's gone on, he's gone on to greater things. But he's never forgotten Al Mubarak Radio. He always comes.
He's always have time. I mean, the last time he was here, when in Battle, it was, I think I can't remember which program he was. In the program he did it at Medina Masjid. I don't know if you were available that evening when that Qari from Egypt came on. Maulana just see that obviously he prayed as well. And I went to see him after his program. He goes, and I need to go from rush because obviously my wife is at his wife is at cousin's house. I'll give you a call later on. And me, Khalilias, and Mr. Mubarak was at his house just talking away, and my phone rang. And then my phone rang and it was Maulana Imtiaz, and he says, where are you? I said, no, I'm at Mr. Mubarak. So obviously, then he came over and he actually sat down with us. So this was like 10, 11 o'clock at night. And 12 o'clock, I said, I'm feeling hungry. Let's go and get something to eat. So 12 o'clock, we were at Oasis having something to eat, all four of us. So again, Maulana Imtiaz, he never forgets where he started from. And he's got a lot of time for us, mashallah.
I mean, look at Mr. Al Mubarak himself, Al Mubarak Radio. I mean, look, 10 years ago, there was no Al Mubarak Radio. Mr. Al Mubarak had this vision of having a radio station that would benefit the Muslim community. And if you ask him today, that would you have thought that you would have reached Kuala Lumpur and Jakarta and Auckland, Panama, Toronto, Los Angeles? You would have laughed.
That's right.
He would have said, well, you're barking mud that, I would have such a global reach. I mean, Mr. Mubarak has nearly over 12,000 followers on Twitter, and he's got massive following in South Africa. I mean, I think, we shouldn't forget the contribution of the South African Muslims. I mean, got Radio Islam. And to be honest, if it wasn't for the brothers and sisters in South Africa, I don't know if anybody's listening from South Africa. If you are, please let us know. But ultimately, the brothers and sisters in South Africa have actually paved the way. And I think Muslims in the UK have to learn lessons from the Muslim community in South Africa. I know they've been in South Africa a lot longer than Muslims have here, but actually they've made it. They're a great success story in my opinion, because they've paved the way in terms of these new services. I mean, if you look at Muslims in the UK, they've only gone into like social media and radio probably less than 6 years.
Oh, yeah.
I would say
less than that.
Yeah. South Africa, the Muslim radio stations have been going on for a considerable period of time. So ultimately, we all have a big debt of gratitude to our brothers and sisters in South Africa in terms of the fact that they've actually showed us the way. They've revolutionized the way Islam is presented, moving away from the traditional systems to actually broadcasting on the airwaves through the internet, and being accessed by people world wide. So I think this is a great success story, and ultimately Muslims need to keep on embracing technology. If you look at Muslims in previous years, they've been very reluctant to move away from traditional knowledge or traditional sciences. But I think Muslims now, in order if we neglect technology, if we refuse to use technology, Muslims are going to be the biggest loser, because you'll find many of our youth, going back to the point earlier that I was making tonight, brother Saf, is the fact that people are embracing new technologies. Even elderly people are actually using iPads, using Samsung tabs, using more sophisticated laptops than ever before.
I'll just tell you my own story. About 2 months ago, I was on my iPhone. My dad was at my house, and I was just playing the Quran on the iPhone. And my dad goes, "I want one of them. You know, when I go to the masjid, it's a bit easier for me." I said, "Are you sure?" He goes, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." Because I don't want a phone. Obviously, he couldn't understand what I wanted because I want one of them on my phone. So he goes, "I don't want a phone. I just want something like that where I can read my phone, my Quran on there." I said, "Oh, so you want a little iPad, don't you?" Sorry, an iPod. So I showed him on YouTube, and he goes, "Yeah, yeah, that's what I want." But now he's loving it. And my dad's 60 plus.
I mean, I think it. I mean, many people in the elder generation have started embracing
Oh, yeah.
technology because they were very apprehensive in terms of using, computers. But I think, now that's become, part of the world. I mean,
It's like a daily thing now, isn't it?
I
Yeah.
can remember when I started teaching. I was wondering, how this PowerPoint works and how these things work. But now, obviously, now we've moved on to using videos in teaching. We're trying to embrace, new technologies. So I think technology shouldn't be used for the sake of technology. There's no point using technology for just the sake of it.
That's right.
If there's a benefit, if there's a way of actually getting across to audiences that you wouldn't necessarily get across to, then Muslims have to use the technology. We should have more scholars that are actually giving speeches that are uploaded onto YouTube or done, presented via live via YouTube. Ultimately, this is what we need. Now, we can't expect people to come to us. We have to go to
To
them,
them. Oh,
and that's where Al Mubarak Radio has actually really broken new ground, that people can access us. They just have to go to the internet. They can watch our program now
as I say, it's a click
live.
away. Just a click away.
Yep.
It's so simple. It's so simple. I mean, even if you can't remember the actual link, even if you go into the search bar and type in Al Mubarak Studio, the whole list actually comes up, and just go to the one watch live, and it'll click at the little banner at the bottom, watch live videos, and it goes on it straight away. It's so simple. I say anybody could use it now. So that's just way moving forward now.
I mean, definitely. I mean, ultimately, our children are leading the way. Some of our children are so good with using technology. It's frightening,
It is.
and in a negative manner and in a positive manner. That there's know so much about computers and tablets and programs that even adults actually get mesmerized or bewildered in terms of how can a child be so advanced in terms of using these technologies. I mean, I don't think anything's ever going to replace the pen. I mean, asking a 4-year-old to use an iPad is a bit dangerous at the expense of using a pen. I mean, I think children, if you agree, Brother Saf, that children have to learn how to read books. I mean, physical books, cover to cover, have to be able to use a pen and a pencil. I mean, these methods should never be forgotten or
No, you're right.
replaced, because I mean, I've heard some stories where children are actually struggling in school because of an overuse of technology. That the technology is completely bamboozled their brains to such an extent that they find in doing basic, following, carrying out basic skills is very, very difficult. So I think technology needs to complement, and that's the correct word that
right.
we should be using. The technology needs to complement traditional methods of learning, as opposed to just doing away with traditional methods, because kids need to be able to use pens, pencils, crayons, do basic tasks that we used to enjoy when we were at school, and not just completely embrace technology. Because the worst thing we could do is make our children into robots and over reliant and over dependent on technology. So technology should not be used for the sake of technology, but ultimately it should be used where we've identified a gap, or where it's required in order to advance the delivery of knowledge.
That's right. I think it should do. Obviously, I mean, as you said, pens, pencils, crayons, rulers. The most important thing, is they must know how to use them and never forgotten how when to be used. I mean, if everything was so easy, why can't we just type everything in and just you got the essay? For especially for the youngsters, it's very important. I think for them to get them to learn the basics.
I mean, I think another art that's been forgotten by many of our children is the art of handwriting. I mean, I know my handwriting is probably the worst now, but I can remember a time at school where much emphasis was placed
Yeah.
on handwriting, but now ultimately many people are struggling to write handwrite because all they've grown up through the school system is
The computer
using
system.
Microsoft Word
Yeah. I
and
mean,
typing
I,
assignments.
I can remember when I was at school, they even taught us how to write, script writing,
Yeah.
italic script writing. They even taught us how to do that as well. I think it's all moved away now. Nothing is ever getting taught like. I mean, correct us, if we're wrong. If anybody, tells something different, correct us if we're wrong. But I think that's kind of moved away as well from what it was, and I think that was a quite important thing as well. In everybody's life, how to do script writing.
Another thing that fascinates me is that, when we were young, I don't know if you remember, Brother Saf, but I mean, I can remember playing out more than most kids
Oh
do
yeah,
today. I mean, I can remember going up trees and picking off conkers,
yeah,
playing
yeah.
football, playing cricket, playing tag,
Hide and seek.
hide and seek, Baltic, all these games, and we used to be fit.
Yeah,
That we used to actually go out, we could play out. But I think today some parents are so over defensive that they look to let their children out. That I've seen so many kids for hours on end. They're actually on tablets
tappers.
playing games and other activities. And I think that's something that parents need to address. I mean, obviously now things are more dangerous. I would say probably the environment that we're living in is more dangerous than it ever used to be. But we are depriving our kids of the childhood in
That's
the
right.
sense that they're not able to go out and explore themselves, explore what it's like to play out, meet new people. And I think that's a sad reality within our society today, that technology has overcome kids so much that when kids are, you see these glossy adverts on television, Kindle, iPad, Samsung Tab. Many kids, they pressurize their parents into basically saying, well, mommy, daddy, can I actually have this? And next minute they've actually got these things, they're using them, but they spend so many hours on the computer, the laptop, or these tablets that they actually not getting out and getting sunlight, not getting
No,
exercise, and not actually it's adding to the obesity rate.
that's
So
right.
that many kids are actually very unfit, and
Unfit, yeah.
I'm going to use an undiplomatic word, but very podgy. And ultimately, they're not as fit as I'm sure as we used to be. I can remember when I used to go to high school, used to walk up that hill
Oh yeah,
for 7 years,
right.
Batley Field Hill, walk up there, walk down. Today, many children actually just get driven to school
Get
and
picked
hardly
up
ever
at the
walk.
doorstep
Yeah,
and get dropped off at school.
yeah.
So easy.
And I think through technology, I think life's become too easy.
It
I
has.
mean, look at even in many countries around the world, that washing machines, dishwashers, they've actually made us complacent and very lazy. So technology is there to make life easy, but I think life's become way too easy.
It's way too easy, more easier.
Yeah,
I can remember. I mean, a friend of mine. He was born in India, and he got married and he came to England, and he went to India after 5 6 years to see his parents and his friends. He went to his family, and at that point, I was in India as well, and he says to me, he was there for 2 3 weeks, I think, and he says to me, "Oh, I'm fed up now. I want to go home." And I says, "Why is that? This is your homeland. This is India. This is where you're born." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Here, there's not much electricity. Sometimes it goes. Hot water's an issue. You be careful what you drink. Back in England, you turn a switch on and light comes on. You turn a tap, you get cold water instantly. You turn another tap, you get hot water instantly." So reflecting to what you said as well, obviously we're getting very easier now. Life is getting so easy for us. So we are depending on stuff now more and more and more. And we want more and more and more as well. So I think that's one of the points as well. I think it's quite.
I mean, ultimately, I think there's gonna come a time where there's going to be a limit on technology. I mean, what I'm basing this on is that if you actually look at the evolution of mobile phones, for example, if you remember the big mobile phones that first
Big
came out,
aerial.
the ones that are still in demand now, which fetch thousands of pounds. You look at the evolution of mobile phones over the last 30 years, that they've actually got smaller and smaller, and now they're actually starting to get
More
bigger
bigger,
now
bigger, yeah.
because of the amount of technology that's required that people are expecting to use. Like, for example, mobile phones can now monitor your pulse, your heart rate, exercise applications. They're basically computers, or now they call them phablets now, don't they?
Yeah.
So I mean, look example at the iPhone,
Just look at the iPhone 6 Plus.
6 Plus or the Note 4, huge things, but people are expecting more from a mobile phone rather than just actually make a phone call. Hello, how are you? Bye bye.
Yeah.
It's becoming like people are checking the internet, checking the email, and I think that brings me on to another issue that people are becoming obsessed with with work and checking the emails. I know sometimes I go a bit mad, brother Saf, that I'm always constantly become addicted to checking emails
Yeah.
rather than checking an email for work in the morning and the evening, because you've got this mobile phone in your hand. It's actually stressing people out. And I think technology has stressed people out, that instead of having boundaries,
Yeah.
that you leave work, you start work 9 o'clock, you finish work at 5, leave it, because people have got mobile phones now and tablets. They're inclined to basically, even when they're at home resting, when they should be resting, enjoying time with family, recreation, they're actually working, checking emails,
Emails,
or I
that's
need to
right,
do
yeah.
this tomorrow. I know sometimes I've checked emails, brothers, after on my mobile phone about 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock, but it's just really, we need to create, humans need to create boundaries in terms of the fact that work ends at this time, recreation, rest activity should be done. And I think technology to an extent has basically blurred those
That's right.
boundaries. And I think people, if you keep on doing that, you can make yourself ill. Stress leads to other
I
illnesses.
mean,
So it's becoming a problem.
so if you look how stressful a mobile phone can get, you could be driving, your phone rings and you can't answer. And you're like, oh, I really have to take that call. Now you've missed it. Second one, when you lose reception and you're in between sending a text or an email and you can't send it because you've not enough 3G or 4G. You just got normal reception, you can't send it. So it's all adding onto your normal stress levels. So is it healthy or unhealthy for you?
I mean, for example, I commute to work and I commute via train. And the first thing I see in the morning is everybody with their mobile phones out, some people with their tablets reading a book, everybody going away on the mobile with the messages and the internet. When you're coming home,
Same thing.
everybody's mobiles come out, because obviously you can't do anything on the train apart from sit there. That's if you're lucky, if you get see people standing up as well on their mobile. So we may laugh at it, but I think we've gone, as humans, we've gone mad with technology that we can't live without it. But I think ultimately boundaries need to be put in place to ensure that the work time, during work time, use technology unless you're using it for recreational use. There needs to be a time period in the day where ultimately you take a break from all technology, whether it be television, hi-fi's, computers, laptops, tablets, smartphones, because ultimately it does add to
Your stress
the
levels
stress. And
yeah.
stress is something that very few people notice until when it reaches a peak.
That's right.
And ultimately, the definition of stress is debatable amongst many medical professionals and many scientists.
Also, you've got more knowledge on this than what I have. I mean, stress, once that hits the high top level, it can really affect your dual daily routines and your personal life quite bad, I think.
I mean, ultimately, it's all about planning your day and prioritizing your tasks. I mean, today, ultimately, I know we're going slightly off the topic, but I think this needs to be addressed, that we are living in a more fast-paced world than ever. I mean, I've lived in the Middle East and I've been to India a number of times. Things are more, laid back there. And I wonder sometimes what people are too laid back here. But also you got to remember, the climate's different, the weather's hot, and why do you need to work so hard every single day? Life, if you're going to live to 60 or 70 or longer, then what's point suffering burnout by the time you're 30 or you're 40? You're not used to actually anybody. And I think in Western countries, I think ultimately life is too fast paced.
It is.
It's too much people are doing during a day, not realizing that things don't have to be done on that particular day. So there needs to be a balance in terms of, workload. And I think technology has actually made it worse, not better. Technology has made things easier. Like for example, once upon a time you would have had to, typewrite an essay or even write an essay. Now it looks more presentable, and the presentation techniques are better by using Microsoft Word or using other applications. But ultimately, you do have stresses associated with technology that it's made things easier. Like for example, before email came into existence, if you were working in an office, you'd have to write something on a post-it note, leave it on the desk of a colleague, or even send a letter. That used to take days. Now email has, made things easier. But when you're working in an office, do you actually need to send an email to another person in the office?
That's what they're doing, though, aren't
You
they?
could just go to the person and say,
Exactly.
well, this needs doing. Unless you're working from home and you're communicating with someone in the office, that's a different issue. But
I mean, what about spell checks? Everybody's got spell checks now. Even on the iPhones, there's spell checks. On the computer, spell checks. I think, people who are finding difficulty, spelling words, they're just going onto the emails or the Word or the iPhones and writing the word out, and it's actually spelling itself for a predictive texting. On a predictive texting can go wrong sometimes, but it does give you an option of different words. I think that's another way as well. People are getting a bit lazy and forgetting looking up in the actual dictionary
yeah,
how to spell that word.
I mean, like when I was at university, my lecturer used to always say to me that if you when you're reading books, for your, for in terms of learning, ultimately you should always have a dictionary at the side. But I mean, today
How many
tech
times did you hear?
speakers tech speakers taken over that. People, when they're texting, they're using that language in speech,
Yeah.
and they can't spell words properly. Like I've had students in exams, they've actually written answers with text speak, like I will see you later, like as in I, then WILL
See.
SEEYOU. This is now is IWLLC, as
Yeah.
in the letter C, and you in the letter U. And people are using this in normal everyday language when it comes to
It's like,
writing and speaking.
other day I was walking, funny friend, I'm walking, and there was some youngsters walking in front of me, two young girls, and they were talking in front. So they must have been discussing, having a discussion, and one of the girls must have said something, and the other girl shouted out, "OMG, oh my God." I mean, again, that's a text word, isn't it? Really, rather than using "oh my word" or "oh my God," so you said "OMG,"
I mean,
OTT.
the point is, I mean, especially if in a formal context, you can't use words like,
No, you
or you
can't.
can't use the abbreviation
That's right, yeah.
OMG. I mean, you wouldn't even use oh my God, or you use more formal
More formal.
language. But I think the English language is actually changed dramatically,
It has.
where
It's very slang.
text speaks come into the English language, whether it's for better or it's for worse. But ultimately, technology, you're right, Brother Saf, that technology has made things a lot easier, more accessible, but it's had a lot of negative effects
Oh, yeah, I
in
mean,
terms of
yeah, it definitely has.
the development and the way English is actually spoken today, and ultimately how we use the English language in everyday situations, and ultimately the jury's out, and I can only see things becoming even more simplified through the more use of technology. So I think ultimately technology is good, but I think in some cases technology has been left to its own devices. No pun intended.
That's
But
right.
it's been left to its own devices in terms of the fact that it's been it's been good to have new technology, but ultimately there needs to be not a limit, but we need to look at the use of technology carefully in a variety of settings, especially when we're teaching our young children that technology is important, it needs to be used, but ultimately we must balance it with traditional tools, use of traditional tools, and use of traditional mediums to ensure that our children develop in the way their parents and their grandparents developed, especially during the early years of their education.
That's right. I think it's very important where today's children do get to use the old tradition. I think you should never ever forget the old tradition. The pen and the paper, the ruler, rubber, pencil, everything, rather than rather than a normal computer or anything like that. I think it is very important for the youngsters as well, so they do realize obviously it's not as easy as what they think. But I mean, regarding technology, I mean, how far can you really push it? How far do you want to go with it? I mean, in terms of teenagers or young children, I think the parents should really play the big role in it as well. Where if you want to go on the iPad, you're only allowed an hour a day, not for the whole afternoon or for the whole day. Yeah, so I think it's really up to the parents as well. Again, teenagers, uh, 15, 16 plus onwards, I mean, they've all got mobile phones. Who's there really to stop them to use?
I think what's happened today is that many parents, some parents would rather have the kids off their backs and get the kids latest gadgets, latest bit of technology to keep them quiet. Some parents have failed to actually give incentives, saying that okay, if you do really well in your exams, you will I will get you an iPad or get you a Kindle, for example, or even a smartphone. I think this incentivized rewards have actually have disappeared. I mean, that's how my parents used to deal with me, that if I wanted something, they said, well, okay, you've got to get so many A's in your school report, then you will get something, otherwise if you don't, you're not getting something. And I think that's what needs to be brought back. Oh, yeah. Especially within the family setting, that we incentivize rewards. We can't let our kids expect to get things on a plate necessarily. Otherwise, we're creating problems for ourselves. I mean, ultimately, they do need technology for their schoolwork. Then fair enough. But I think schools have responsibility here in terms of in terms of allowing use of technology,
encouraging the children,
but not too much technology should be used, because I think some schools may be using a bit more technology than my liking. And I think we don't want to basically make things too easy for our children, that they struggle when they go to the world of higher education or the world of work, where they struggle to actually make friendships with people. Because if you have a child that spends all day and every day on a tablet, when are they going to learn social interaction skills? When are they going to learn to make friends? Because they just think, well, the world revolves around them and the device that they're using in their particular room. So I think we can't rob our children of their childhood. No. We need to encourage them to play out, get exercise, meet people, social interaction. Very, very important. So I totally agree with you, Brother Saf, that technology needs to be restricted to kids for maybe an hour, 45 minutes, a bit more time on weekends, but ultimately only half an hour to 45 minutes during the week, because they should be prioritizing their homework and working hard towards getting a top education.
That's right. I mean, again, you're right, exactly right. You shouldn't really give everything. If a child says, Mom, Dad, I want an iPad, you should really go and get an iPad. You should know, if you want an iPad, you prove to me you want an iPad. You'll be good in the home, you help out in the house, you respect your mom and dad, you get, your exams are coming up, or if you get 2 straight A's or you're so in a subject, we will get you an iPad. So I think parents play a big role in this as well, in terms of how much are the parents giving into the child. So again, that's one point as well. And again, the point I mentioned earlier as well, we should really giving our children so much allowances a day to go onto the iPad or the laptop or anything like that. So it's really, again, it's up to the parents as well. So parents really play a big, huge role in their child's life, in terms of social media or the iPad or anything. Or if they get a Kindle, they're reading the books on it, then obviously that's I don't think so. That's not as bad as going on playing games like Minecraft or whatever they play these days, or Candy Crush. I keep saying Candy Crush popping up on my Facebook. So obviously it's up to the parents, individual as well, how they monitor their own child as well. So I think parents really should play a big role in this as well. So I mean, again, it's up to the parents to do this.
I mean, I think even obviously now in schools, I believe that they use a lot of technology compared to many years ago,
I
because
think the local masjid started
have
using
you
it.
started? I was
That's
going to come on to that, brother
yeah.
Sam, but I think you beaten me to the punch.
Sorry, yeah.
No, I
I'm
think
stealing your show now. Sorry.
I think you're right. I mean, I'm glad that madrasas are actually trying to use, are bringing in use of technology in
Yeah,
terms of teaching, because, what I've realized that, I mean, obviously I've been teaching at university for nearly next year 5 years, and what I found is that, for example, if you're giving a lecture for an hour, it's a long time. It's a long time for somebody just to sit there and actually listen to a lecturer, because I mean, they say that the attention span of a person is literally 20 minutes,
that's right.
and after 20 minutes
You drift off.
you drift off. So what we've tried to do in the world of education, a higher education level, is to actually break up the learning, where we actually show images, show diagrams, show YouTube
So, yeah,
videos.
so you do a bit of practical
Yeah.
and a bit, talking and listening as well.
We also allow questions, so that breaks up the thing. I mean, use of videos is brilliant because allows me to recompose my thoughts, recompose myself. Something I might have forgotten at the beginning of the lecture, it comes back by showing videos. It breaks up and enhances the learning. Now we've got what's called lecture capture.
What's that then?
That's £2 million invested by the University of Leeds, and it actually records my lectures. So
Fantastic.
what we do is, after the lecture is recorded, we can edit it, or we can actually cut bits out, and ultimately publish the lecture. So, for example, if a student who's drifted off after 20 minutes, or missed something during the lecture, they can actually go, we can publish the lecture on the computer system, and ultimately they can access it, and pick up on any points that they've
Missed
not
out on.
understood, missed out, or forgot to take notes on, or completely missed that particular one. And it actually acts as a revision tool. So I think technology from that perspective is
A good point.
brilliant, because it enhances the learning and teaching experience of students. Ultimately, I mean, I know many people don't like being recorded, whether it be audio or video. I mean,
Yeah.
beginning, many years ago, I was very apprehensive of actually even being recorded, via, camcorder, or even recorded orally. But I think, the more you practice, the more stronger you
It's-
become in terms of your,
Yeah,
in terms of your delivery.
it's just a daily thing, into really. Then you just put him in. When first this one first came on, the YouTube or a bit like that, but obviously once you just brush you off the back of your head and don't think about it.
Yeah.
Again, the first time when I actually went on Mubarak radio, I really didn't know what to say, because I'm not that sort of a person who writes script out, and I'll just speak as it comes. I think sometimes it's better to have a speech written out. If I were doing a conference meeting in front of 50, 60 people, I'll probably have notes with me.
Yeah.
But on radio, obviously, I try not to have scripts on me. I might have bullet points.
Yeah.
But obviously, just.
I mean, today we've been talking about social media. I mean, none of us actually prepared for this
No.
discussion. We've looked at a lot of, in this program, apart from looking at the benefits of harnessing the power of social media, we've looked at the advantages and the disadvantages of using social media and technology. But I think the most important things is that never ever discount any type of technology, or reject any type of technology that's actually out there. Everything has a particular use. I mean, I was very skeptical of the use of technology before, but now I see there's a value to the actual products or the services that are actually out there. That everything has a benefit in a certain given context. I mean, you speak to many academics or teachers, many of, especially the ones that that are older. Many of the teachers, academics are older. They use very much in tune with traditional sources, such as not even using PowerPoints, not even using technology. They will just talk, because they're more used to that. And it's very difficult to break a habit of a lifetime. But ultimately, you find that when it comes to the pedagogical value of teaching, that ultimately you need to diversify in the terms of, in respect of the manner in which you deliver knowledge. And Knowledge has to be delivered through different mediums such as YouTube videos, for
That's right.
example, or even diagrams, or even images, even podcasts. Even, I mean, now lecturers have been encouraged to record their own podcasts and publish them on the internet, discussing a particular subject. I mean, I like to present videos every week in my lectures on an aspect on the subject. For example, we looked at Sharia law last week in one of the lectures and showed them a video, two short videos on Sharia law, how it's applied. And that, sometimes I don't have to cover that content. The actual speaker whose video I've selected, that I've embedded into the lecture, ultimately provides a different perspective, provides a deeper understanding into the subject, because it's all about making sure your customers, your students are actually engaged with the actual lecture rather than go to sleep after 20 minutes.
That's right. I mean, you can easily switch off. I've done it in my past, whilst I was at college and school as well. Excuse me. After 20, 30 minutes, you switch off. Your mind starts drifting off. So, as you say, breaking it up, in terms of, you could have like 20 minutes of talk, 20 minutes of video, then 20 minutes of practical. That's more or less about an hour's gone straight away. So I think it's very important improvise different things in your life or in your studies or anything like that. Again in schools as well, in mosque as well. So I think it's very important with that.
I mean, I think we've had a good discussion
I think we have
tonight. I think 1 hour's actually flown. I think
over. I think
nearly half past.
So Mr. Mubarak's not popped his
10. I think Mr. Mubarak's having a well-earned break. I don't know whether he's actually listening next door, but ultimately, I think this is an ongoing topic that we will be discussing in the future as well, in terms of the use of technology, because technology is not going to disappear. We're not going to go back to world of pen and paper, or necessarily books for that matter. I think there's going to be more increase in the use of technology in the days, months, and years to come. So I think in terms of concluding our show tonight, I think Muslims need to not fear technology, need to use technology where there's benefits, where it's accessible, where it's beneficial to our people. But ultimately, we can't discount technology, because technology is here to actually stay, and we as Muslims will be the worst losers if we completely ignore the benefits of technology. Obviously, we need to weigh up the pros and cons, but the advantages and the disadvantages. But ultimately, we need to use technology, and I applaud Mr. Al Mubarak and Al Mubarak Radio for their revolutionary breakthrough in terms of the use of YouTube, because I think it's a fantastic way of actually getting information across. It makes it more realistic, showing showing the programs visually rather than just via audio for that matter. So I will actually end on this now. I'd like to thank Brother Staff for he was only meant to be on part of the program for 10 minutes, but I think he's got carried away. He's been a wonderful co-host, and he's contributed wonderfully to the program. Yeah. So
I just have to say, Jazakallah, for having me on the show as well.
No problem, you're welcome.
Inshallah, I'll try to be again on the next week's show, depending on my schedules, or we've got plans for next week as well. But I'm here most nights as well, so inshallah, if you're here next week, inshallah, I'll try to join and see what the topic is going to be. So let's Jazakallah for having me.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Okay, Jazakumullah khair to Mr. Safraz Lahe and Dr. Abdul Basit Sheikh, the Real Talk Show, back every single Friday. And inshallah, next week also will be along with the Quran show, side by side. The two shows will be together, hopefully around 8 p.m. onwards until now. Tomorrow, what we have lined up, okay, children, parents, are you listening? Okay, kids show, okay, will be after Maghrib Salah. Okay, after Maghrib Salah, we will give 1 hour or so, just over an hour, for the kids, okay, to join in. and inshallah, hopefully, recite Quran and Nasheed in the morning. Okay, 11 o'clock. Okay, I'll do the morning show at 11 a.m. Okay, as it is a Saturday, we'll still give it a go and see how many people tune in. Okay, 11 a.m. inshallah, we'll do it for an hour or so, and then kids show will be after Maghrib, and then tomorrow, inshallah, we've got a new program lined up. Sheikh Abu Safiya will be on after the kids show, and the show we have named it is Discover Islam. So, just like Ramadan, going through the basics of Islam, because it's important, because we're going to have children interacting, also parents as well. So, knowledge, and also during the week, or hopefully another day has been located where inshallah we will be doing questions and answers of anything that you would like to know regarding Islam or general knowledge. We've got Dr. Abdul Basit Sheikh as well. We've got Sheikh Abu Safiya as well, who's my younger brother as well. So if you have any questions, you could just, text or WhatsApp a question in. No, fear of names or etc. We want you to feel confident to use our text WhatsApp service. Even if we were discussing this, even if we cannot get you the answer on the day, because remember, at some times, Sheikh Abu Safiya is a qualified scholar, but he's not a mufti. So sometimes some questions may have to be asked by a mufti to get it clarified, and then we will, on the next show, we can text or WhatsApp you, and we can give you the answer. So that's all we have time for. Let's get ready for tomorrow, inshallah, and hopefully have a beautiful day with the children, kids, parents. I know most of them will be asleep right now, but children, we are looking forward to your taking part in the show. Get the word around. If you go to madrasa in the morning, get the word out, okay? And hopefully we can have a really good afternoon, or say evening, because going to be quite dark after Maghrib Salah. So all the children, get ready, get your vocals warmed up, and hopefully we will see you tomorrow. So inshallah, until tomorrow, I would like to say a big jazakumullah khair to Dr. Abdul Basit Sheikh, a big jazakallah to Mr. Safraz Lahir, a big jazakumullah khair to Qari Ilyas as well, and everybody who is either listening to us right now or even watching us through YouTube. May Allah bless all of you, and inshallah stay safe. It's quite cold, stay warm, inshallah, until tomorrow. This is the Al Mubarak team signing out for today. So until then, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, fi amanillah.